How's it going? Fox back again for Sound Design Tutorials. Today I'm going to be going over this magical, wonderful instrument by the people over at Output called Signal. It is a pulse engine. It's a brilliant way of describing it. It's capable of so much more than just creating pulse sounds. It's a fully fledged, arpeggiated, sequence-making, gated monster. It can do anything you need it to do and more. You don't even have to use the pulse engines if you don't want. You can just make sort of pads on your own. It's got so much control, it's unbelievable. This is one that I made, bearing in mind I've only had this week or so. This is one of my own. I've made two so far. This is one, it's just a real slow sort of gated pad with some sticks in the background. Another one I made was a gated D&B app. This one's a lot quicker. If I speed it up. This one was designed mainly just for one note. Some of them, well, there's so much control over this, it's going to be hard for me to fit it all in one. But I'm going to try. I say just one note this is. Very, very velocity sensitive. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to show you as much as I can about this within about 40-45 minutes without blabbering on too much. So Signal Pulse Engine. Let's talk about the browser mainly to start with. It's real straightforward. You click on this box here at the top, it gets you to the browser page. If you're in amongst doing anything else, click on this, brings you to the browser page, and then you can browse by different categories, even speed and stuff. So say we wanted a complex. Let's get out of the user one for now. Say we wanted a complex, dark, arpeggiated sound. This is what you get. There's a list of all three of them within those tags. You can change the tags around, do whatever you want. So complex, dark, and arpeggiated. Let's try anticipation. So yeah, the browser is really, really easy to work to. If you save your own sounds, it automatically goes into this user bank at the bottom here. If you uncheck them, user bank down here. Yeah, so all you do is when you made your own, save it, it goes into the user bank. If you want to init an initiated patch, if you go to the pulse engines, if I remember correctly, number 1 in the browser patch is an init patch. That's what we'll start off. You've got these 4 macros that you can really use to mangle the sounds up. I should probably talk about them before we go ahead and talk about the actual sound engine itself. So let's create another patch. Let's create a creative sidechain inhale plug. So you've got 4 macro sliders, if you like, that are automatically mapped to every single preset that you choose inside the library. It tells you exactly what they are: dirty, wet, open, closed, sharp, soft. It changes per different thing. They're named different things. You can assign these macros yourself from varying different parameters inside this synth. I'll talk about that later on. But what we got here, BI rhythmical. So we can make it thinner. It's a filter, darker, sharper. Swap between 2 rhythms. That one's a triplet. That one's on 8th notes, I believe. So yeah, these macros really are the heart and soul of this Pulse engine. Once you've made your sound, or once you pick a sound, there's so much control. They are NKI ready as well, these are, because obviously they're designed inside a contact instrument. I haven't got it loaded up inside Complete Control, but you will have control over all the knobs and functions and the macros via your knobs on your keyboard. So yeah, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and we're going to initialize this, and we'll just make something together. While we're doing that, I'll try and explain everything as best I can. So when you initialize it, it wipes out all 4 of the macro knobs. You can turn the whole instrument on or off just by clicking the big Pulse engine knob in the middle. When it starts off originally on the init, if we go to Pulse engines, it starts you off with an analog saw, and it's just got a sine wave on a rhythm of 1/16, and this is modulating. If we go into the Advanced tab, the volume and a tiny bit of the pan. These are the sends for the rhythms, if you like. Before we go into that, we'll talk about the sound sources. So we'll go out of the Advanced tab. When a Pulse engine is on, it's highlighted. To turn it off, power switch. You've got 2 Pulse engines, A and B. The Pulse engine, in effect, is you can't have a sound source without a Pulse engine, if that makes any sense. Although you can set we'll talk about it later on, you could set a step so that it's on all the time so that it sounds constant, but rather than being called an oscillator, they call it a Pulse engine. So to turn it on or off, at the bottom, you've got control over the master volume and the pan and the tune. Plus or minus 3 octaves. Control double click resets it to 0. So, sound sources. Click on the box at the bottom. See here it says analog saw. If you click on that, you have loads of different synths and instruments. These are all the different synthesized sounds that you had. I take it they're taken from synths from yesteryear, I would imagine. My personal favourite is the Super Square. Super Square is a really thick sound just to start with. So yeah, Super Square, all these different synths you can choose. Particles is a really neat one as well. Not too sure what it is. You can use it for pads, detune, poly. Let's change the rhythm a bit quicker again. This thing screams drum and bass to me. Just the sort of gated rhythms running behind and even trance as well. Yeah, anyway, we digress. Detune, poly, all your different sound sources. I'm not going to go for all of them. We'll just pick one for now. We'll stick with this detune, poly. If you didn't want that, actually, we'll keep this on Pulse A. We'll turn on Pulse B now by doing this little knob at the bottom. And we'll choose one of the instruments. You've got all these recorded instruments. I would imagine they've been recorded in a real good studio somewhere. You've got pianos, electric pianos, harps, celestes, marimba. I don't know what that is. I think it's like a xylophone. Like some sort of xylophone. Let's try and find something that's going to go well with this gated thing that we've got. Let's try a guitar. So we'll turn Pulse A back on. We need something a little bit more sustained. There we go. So we've got a heavy metal guitar and a detuned poly saw, both running off a sine wave. The rhythms are independent for Pulse A and B. Very easy to build some massive sounds. Let's just stick for one Pulse engine for the minute while we talk about the rest of the controls. So rhythm. What is a rhythm? It can either be an LFO, which is a basic wave. It can be a step sequencer. It can be an ARP that will actually transpose the notes, or it can be a looper. In the wave section, to choose the different waves, you click on this shape box at the bottom. There's loads in here. You can see these are all the simple ones. These are your basic waveforms. You've got sine wave, triangle, square, ramp up, ramp down, sort of a trapezoid ramp, shark fins I like to call them, or side chainy ones. You go into the medium category, there's some lot more complicated shapes. Complex, as you would imagine, there's some real complex ones. You can also draw your own shapes in this LFO section, if I remember how to do it. I might be lying. Must be in the step section, you can draw your own. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. So we'll go back to wave. So yeah, this is pretty much just a basic LFO. And then if you go in the advanced section, it brings up the sends for the rhythm. The main rhythm default is always set to the volume on full. So this is going to give you your main pulse, if you like. If you pull it down, the send doesn't affect it too much until it's on full. See what I mean? So you can actually use this as a basic synthesizer without any rhythm. If you just wanted to make a custom poly sound and use all the effects, you've got amp envelopes and stuff inside here that you can use as well. So we are still in the advanced section. We'll go back to the rhythms for now. So yeah, you've got your basic LFO, which you can use control the volume or the pan on send 1. Send 2, you can choose between a wave and a step. You have a bit more control, I believe. Yeah, so the main rhythm sends, second rhythm sends, no, it's exactly the same, sorry. So yeah, the pulse engines are just designed to either do the volume or the pan, which obviously gives it that pulsy feel. You can modulate other things with other modulators later on if you want to. So for now, we'll just stick to one rhythm. We've gone through the waves, so the step. This just becomes a step sequencer then. You can choose the number of steps, real straightforward. And then it's bipolar, so this will be volume off at the bottom here, this will be volume up at the top. You can draw your own custom shapes if you want. You can hear it stepping between the different values. You can change the number of steps all the way from 1 to 32. Change the speed of the rhythm. You're generally going to want to stick to 16 steps, I do. It's easier to keep on the grid. Some quick rate. So yeah, then the step does exactly what it says. So you've got normal LFOs, steps, different rates. You can draw your own shapes in by right clicking, or you can just put them up or down with the left mouse button. Right click, left click. If you hold left click and down, it lets you draw it in real time. If you hold right click, you can sort of draw in the lines with this sort of red line that comes up to draw your own shape. The next thing what we have is an arpeggiator. This does exactly what you would imagine. Triggers it, MIDI notes. This is velocity, if you like. So if you do every other classic sort of stuttered arpeggiated sound, we're a bit faster at the minute. We'll change it to 1/16. Only plays the incoming MIDI. Sorry. Only plays the incoming MIDI. It doesn't transpose the notes for you, obviously, if you play a chord. Same again, you can change the number of steps all the way up to 32. There are loads of different patterns in the step sequencer and in the arpeggiator in the bank for you to go. Loads of classic ones. Syncopated are the good ones. These are the ones I like to use for arpeggiators. Very, very cool. And same again, if you want to do your own variations of the patterns, it's so easy just to go in there and dive and change things around. So as you can imagine, look at it, triplet ones as well. There's just so many different patterns in here for you to use without even thinking about drawing your own. A lot of delay lines almost. You can create your own delay lines almost with this velocity, like sort of draw your own velocity curves. So it's like a faded out gate. Useful for making effects and transition effects and all sorts of different things. Builds. So versatile, so many things you can do, not enough time to explain it all. As well as the arpeggiator, there's a loop section. This is crazy in itself. You can tell it to loop over and over a certain section of the sample. Make sort of drones out of the sample. The sample, this is still coming from the polysaw. You get a bit of beat in them from the looping. There is ways to change the depth of the loop, if I remember correctly. You can change the starting point of the loop. When you change the length of time division, it changes the size of the loop. Obviously, the sample inside the contact player is a certain length. If you want it to play a quarter note, it's going to play a shorter section. If you want it to play a bar, it's probably going to play the full sample almost. Yeah, and you can change the starting position, so you can start it for halfway the sample and then get it to loop over. Stack. Turn on to be able to play unique rhythms that loop your playing style. So I'll take it without that on, they just all... I'll have to look into that. I'm not really sure what that stack does. That's not something I came across when I was messing around with it myself. But yeah, the looping one is very, very cool if you want to take a real small part, let's say a 16th note. It's almost like having a tremolo effect when you use smaller parts of the sample. Get some 8-bit sounds, but for me the main one that I use is this step sequencer. It's just so cool. So we're gonna use one of these patterns that are built into the step sequencer. Get something going, get a real pumping beat going, and then we'll start looking at some of the other features. Let's go to these syncopated ones again. Which one looks cool? This one looks a bit different than normal. Fucking absolutely awesome. So yeah, then we've got the sends. We can send it to the pan as well if you want. Bouncing it from left to right. Let's look at this advanced tab a little bit more now. You have a second rhythm as well. This is real straightforward. If you want to turn the second rhythm on, it just goes up in the box at the top as well. You then have control over, this time, only a wave and a step sequencer. The main reason you don't have control over the arpeggio and the loop function is because they are mainly controlling other things. They are controlling MIDI notes coming in, so you can't affect that twice, if that makes any sense. It's controlling the samples and the MIDI coming in to give you that stuttering effect. You can then use another thing to control pan. So if you wanted a separate rhythm to control the pan, for an instance, if we wanted a slower one, say 8th note on something a bit more random, let's choose a shape again. Let's choose this shark fin to do the pan. Done there. How have I done that? So you can even start the play. Right, let's load that again to make sure I haven't done something stupid. So you can change the phase of the LFO. So yeah, very, very cool already. So we've got the main rhythm, that sort of shape that we had going on. Bollocks. Didn't want to do that, did we? So yeah, the step sequencer is controlling the volume. We've then got an 8th note controlling the pan. Probably don't need it so heavy. Turn that pulse engine B off. Now you can hear the 8th note swinging independently of the 16th note sequence that we've got going. So once you've set your 2 rhythms up, you've got your gated pulse going now. Loads more controls of what you can do. You've got Engine A ADSR down here. You can have it to control the pitch or the volume. The main thing you're going to do is have it to control the volume, if I'm honest. When you're using a step sequencer to control the note in, you can use it to control the length of your plucks if you like. No sustain and some attack. So you can have it sort of a one-shot fade off and you control the length of it. If sustain's on full, it's just going to keep ringing out. Obviously, release, the notes are going to tail off. Very sensitive, the release. So you get basic ADSR envelope, you can have that to control the pitch also. Let's say for sort of a rised sequence. Change the release of the volume one again. Easy to make your own risers. So this Engine A ADSR, it's the same envelope whether you do it for pitch. 2 independent ones actually. You've got one for volume and one pitch, and this is your how much, so plus or minus an octave. Very, very straightforward. We'll turn it off for now. You then got a main filter per pulse engine. You've got a choice between a low pass adaptive, a low pass DAF filter, a high pass adaptive, a high pass DAF, a band pass, and a notch. We can put a notch. I really do wish you could control that with an LFO or get the pulse engine to control the rate of this, but unfortunately you can't. But yeah, you've got a filter section per voice, and you do have an envelope, which is very handy. So we can have this to do quite a long phaser sweep if you like. If we have quite a long decay as well, you can have a phaser sweep going up and down through your rhythm. Very cool. Obviously the main thing you're going to do, say you could use this as a pluck when you're making plucky sounds later on. You could use it as a low pass filter. creep it in. We're not going to be doing any filter modulation on this sound. It's not really where it's going. You then have control over these here. You've got tube and bite. Adjust the main modulation amount. Adjust the modulation amount of the main rhythm for tube saturation. So the main rhythm can control tube saturation. Adjust the modulation amount of the secondary rhythm or saturation. So yeah, you can control the secondary. I'm reading everything by the highlighted help thing. So yeah, you can. It got bite as well. Clipping there. Still clipping. That's because we've added this extra gain on these bite and the tube saturation. Still clipping. So yeah, you got two little sends at the bottom there before you even go into this effects section. So it's a real basic patch building up at the minute. Once you've built your Pulse Engine up, obviously you've got the same controls all over again in the Pulse Engine B. So I'm quickly just going to add another layer whilst I might talk you through it quickly. But yeah, let's have a look. So we've got that metal guitar. Let's turn the volume down quick. Might set that to an arpeggiated pattern as well. Might be cool. We did have a main rhythm as a step sequence on the first one, so this will be an arpeggiated pattern. We'll change a pattern. Syncopated. Always go to the syncopated. It's really cool. Turn the volume up. Solo it just so we can hear what's going on. Let's give it a few more. Let's make it even quicker. 1/32. That could be cool. Let's increase the volume again. Seems to be quite quiet. So let's bring A back in. I wonder if you can copy the patterns from side to side. Copy a Pulse Engine to yeah, so we've got the same pulse there. Very cool. What about if we change it to 8th note? That was easier than I thought it was going to be. So yeah, we just managed, there's a copy and paste function there, very, very cool. So you can copy source, channel strip, layer effects, entire layer to B if you wanted just, well, like I did there, I wanted to get that Pulse Engine over and then we've used a separate rhythm. Still learning as I go along, as you would imagine, but it's so intuitive, this thing. It's really, it doesn't, when you first load it up, look like it's going to be easy to use, but it is, trust me. Second rhythm, we'll just have a basic triangle wave on this. In the pan. Maybe a faster rate this time. We'll do off the tube and the bite from the electric guitar. We might even put... might even pitch it down an octave. We'll even put a low pass filter on it. So this electric guitar now is really taking part of the deeper part of the sound. Coming together very, very easy, as I say, to build sound. So once you've gone through your pulse engines, we've pretty much covered everything now. So main volume, pan, choose your sound source, choose your main rhythm, which is controlling the general stutter of the sound. You're generally going to want to be using the main rhythm to control the volume, which it does. It's automatically set to that. So yeah, choose your main rhythm, get your gated sequence going, apply your filter, bit of tube or a bit of bite, bring in a second sound source, then you go to the effects section, which is massive. So pulse A and B both have sends available. Let's go back to the pulse engines. We'll solo A, because this was taking care of the higher part of the sound. We're going to put a reverb on this, I think, and a delay. So if we go back to the effects, pulse A, here are all your sends at the bottom. So reverb, you've got on and off knob for pulse A and pulse B for each one. You simply just click it on and then set the settings to whatever you want. A bit more wet, less pre-delay, instant attack. Let's compress this as well. Simple as that. I mean, you could have reverb on pulse B as well, and it is a totally different reverb. You've got independent controls, independent pre-delay, independent size, independent wet settings. So it's like a totally different send for each pulse engine. We won't put a reverb on part B though. We may have a delay or something like that. So I'm just going to go quickly and turn part B on as well, so we can compare it together. So bear in mind, these are just the sends for pulse A and pulse B at the minute. Let's add a bit of EQ to B, which was the electric guitar. Try and brighten up the mids a bit. Pulse A, we want to stereo spread that definitely, and we'll make B more mono because it's the more bassy sort of one. Let's add a delay also to A. This might be a bit tricky to get it how we want it. It's automatically synced to the clock. Is that the release for the volume amp? So, effects, delay. So yeah, you get the gist anyway. This flutter is pretty cool as well. It's like a sort of stereo imaging thing. It flicks the pan around. So yeah, once you've got them, then you've got sends for your pulse A and B. Very straightforward. Click them on or on, adjust them. Nice and easy. You got an EQ, compressor, lo-fi, tape saturation drive, sped, delay, reverb, and flutter, which we have quickly gone over. You then have global effects. So everything then comes together after the sends and gets sent to the global effects. It's just absolutely huge. a limiter. Why not? Push it into the limiter. Let's run a chorus for everything. This is going to sound massive. Depth. Let's put the whole thing through a reverb, a little bit more subtle one. This has a lot more control over the reverbs in this. It's a convolution reverb. You've got a lot of the convolution reverbs from actually inside contact. Very, very cool. Small hall, something nice and subtle. Bit of pre-delay we will have actually to help mingle with these. Size, left and right the same. High pass or wet. Pre-delay's a bit too much. Bring the wet down. It's quite a big reverb, even though it says small hall. Where to begin? Let's try a phaser as well. Why not? Chorus and a phaser. More modulation effects. Sure, you can set the speed. Be good if you could set the speed of the phaser to the clock. I don't know what the hertz is compared to clock speeds. I'm not that clever. Clipping now. Sorry. So yeah, possibilities are endless. Pulse A sends, pulse B sends, global effects, pulse engines, and then you have these macros. I can't at the top of my head remember how to assign these. Closed. Right, let's quickly see if I can remember how to do this without dawdling and messing around. Pulse engines, effects. I did do this. This is a massive part of this, so perhaps I should have effects, pulse engines. Can't find where it says macros anymore. There was, I thought there was a page all in itself for it. Let's quickly load a patch up that's already here, and we'll see if we can find where it says the macros. Effervescence is very quiet, whatever it is. Pulse engines. Whoa, advanced. God, that's really annoying. Pulse engines. There's a way that you can modulate the sends for the effects as well, so that you can change how much these slides affect things. I can't remember where it is. Here, there it is. Ball bag. So yeah, the macro is a massive part of any sound. Let's load one of mine up, because I don't think I've actually added any macros to them yet. So if we go to user, slow gated fox. So this is one I made yesterday. Quickly talk about what it's got going on. We've got the sticks on rhythm B, been done by an arpeggiator, giving us that real shuffly rhythm. There's a bit of delay on there as well, I think. And on A, it's that clean poly one again, a pad-like rhythm. So yeah, I want to apply some macros to this. What do I want to do? I want to make it brighter. So how do I do that? Assign, navigate to a parameter inside of signal, then click the knob or slider to assign this. So if we go to Pulse Engine, I want the cutoff. This is how you control how much send you want it wants. You can start the changing point of the cutoff to start with. Obviously you can tell it whether you want this slider to open it up. So if we do it to the right, if we call this bright, how do you rename it? Dark and bright. So now I've applied it to the filter, you're going to be able to open the filter and make it brighter. He says. Yeah, that's definitely darker. It's definitely brighter. What else would we want to assign? So let's go back into the Pulse Engine. Let's change. What can we do? We could turn a second rhythm on. I don't know how you choose between the rhythms. Maybe that's something you can do actually in here. And then navigate to parameter inside of signal, then click the knob or slider to assign it to this. There's not a blend between the rhythms, but in some of the patches there was a rhythm thing. Alright, let's click the volume send for rhythm to the volume. This control is assigned to select the macro. So these are all on the same macro at the minute, and you can assign things to different macro. Really huge. I'm going to do a lot more on this as and when I learn it, but yeah, for now that is a pretty basic overview, and I've been waffling for quite a long time, but I've only scratched the surface of what is possible with this thing. I've only been using it for a few days or so because I've been working on other projects, but I can't begin to explain to you how much fun it is to use and what you can possibly do with it. So these sticks things are real cool. Let's just quickly initialize this again. Just quickly, I haven't got an initialize one in here for some reason. Yeah, there we go. So let's go to these pulse engines. I'll just quickly show you what you can do with some of these instruments. So you got sticks and shakers, anvils and claps. So this is what a clap sounds like. It's almost like a white noise source. If you did an arpeggiator, you can really get some cool rhythms going. You could use this to like lay your background down to tracks. Shakers on pulse B. change the wave shape to a saw down. And then imagine if you went to the effects section, applied some reverb and delays and stuff to the sends. If we apply a reverb to that shaker, quite a big one. Delay to the clap, quite wet again, fastish time. Slower time. Too much feedback. Want to make sure it's on beat. Let's try and find a quarter note. You get the idea. You can get some nice percussive loops going. It'd be nice if there was a kick in there, something you could pulse a kick through, or a tom, or a hand drum or something. Found perk. Large kick drum case struck with a hand, producing a very deep and crunchy sound. Yeah, anyway, I'm digressing again. Output, signal, pulse, lots more tutorials to come. I'm going to make a bank of sounds for these, I think. I might just give a few away for those of you who are thinking of getting this. Head over there to their website, get it. You will not regret it. It comes with this massive amount of samples. I can't remember exactly what it was. I ain't even going to say it, but it was a fair few gigabytes of samples and stuff and presets and stuff for you to play with. But yeah, head over there, get it. I'm going to be doing a tutorial on one of the other products as well, which is Exhale, which is another contact instrument. That is like a vocal version of this. It's not so much pulse orientated. Yeah, it does have one of the pulse engines inside it for you to be able to mangle the vocal samples up inside it. But yeah, stay tuned for that. Output. Get that stuff, it's awesome. Thanks for watching. Cheers.